welcome back. So today I'm going to talk about one of my Makes Challenge video makes that I completed. Today it's kind of a not depressing, but a little bit of a letdown, this make. So I hope that this video won't be too depressing, but I do really want to share everything with you because I want to see if you can learn from it and you may not make the same mistakes that I made. So I wanted to tell you all about it. So basically I made the Amsterdam blazer by Oraguese Patterns. It's a beautiful pattern. The instructions were great. But first let me talk about the fabric choice because that's how I do all of my blog posts. And so the fabric choice was a Tencel Twill from Blackbird Fabrics. It's a beautiful drapey fabric, and when you think of drapey you don't think structured blazer, but I love the color. It's the penny color. This is the color right here. I loved the color so much, and I saw that the jacket had so much interfacing, and I was like, oh, it'll be fine, it'll probably work. No. It did not. I think that was my biggest downfall for this make, was the fabric choice. It didn't work as well as I wanted it to. First of all, there are spots on the jacket that would look totally fine if my jacket had been with a more structured fabric, but the fabric keeps wanting to kind of separate away from the jacket and just kind of hang and drape however it wants. Basically disregarding the fact that it needs to stay where it is. So I think that the only way I'd be able to use this fabric again for a jacket would be to interface the whole thing or underline it. And so I'll go ahead and show you everything. It's not horrible. The pictures I took look pretty good. You can't really see the minor details, but there are a lot of things I don't like about it. So let me talk about the interfacing. I think this also had something to do with it. So on the bottom of the jacket, I don't know, you can kind of see in the pictures, but I feel like the fabric is like buckling a little bit and trying to kind of hang past where the jacket ends. Is just trying to like poof out, but then you can see like this visible line where the interfacing is on the bottom hem, and I don't know if I needed a different interfacing or once again needed to use some different fabric, but the interfacing I used was just some Pellon medium weight interfacing. I've learned a lot about interfacing after making this jacket, and a lot about what kind of fabrics you need to make a blazer. And this was all after I had already cut this out, interfaced it, and like it was basically ready to put together. And so I felt going forward that this may not turn out, but I didn't want to just waste all these pieces that had been cut out. So I went ahead and made it, and I think I'll still wear it, but it's kind of more like a cardigan. I will link below a helpful video by Guthrie and Ghani. And she talks about dress interfacing, which is just nice to hear someone else talk about interfacing. And then the Closet Case Patterns Jasika blazer that they just came out with she has a lot of blog posts linked in her website about like choosing materials for the Jasika blazer, and that's actually really helpful for any other blazer, I feel like. And she talks a lot about interfacing and the different kinds of interfacing that you use for different parts of the jacket. For instance, the collar, I feel like right here, which no one will ever see it, but I know it's there and it drives me crazy, but this is the under part of the collar, and this wrinkle right here was just something that got pulled that I couldn't really fix in the end. Like I can iron it out, but it's just the interfacing is not helping because it's not stretching and moving with the curve of this collar. And she, for example, suggests using knit interfacing on the collar, and I feel like that would have been really helpful because then it wouldn't be resisting the way that it needed to go, because the interfacing I use is not woven, but so I didn't think I would have a problem of it stretching in different ways, but it really doesn't want to move with this collar. So that was one good tip that she had on her blog, so I really think it's worth looking at. Also, the Love to Sew podcast talks about all the different types of interfacing in one of their podcast episodes, so that's also really helpful. Another thing about using this fabric is, I've already said this, I feel like, but I did look at the fabric choices for the Jasika blazer outlined in the Closet Case Patterns blog. And Tinsel Twill is not really, she doesn't specifically say it's not a good choice, but all the other characteristics of all the other fabrics she lists, you can kind of tell this would not be a good choice. But the one reason it's really not a good choice is because I feel like it's kind of smooth. And she talks about in her class video, I got the online class for the Jasika blazer, but I think she talks about this in her blog too, how it's difficult, even if you have really good interfacing, for the interfacing to stick to fabric like this. She didn't specifically mention Tinsel Twill, but my interfacing, and I don't know if it was the interfacing I used or if it was because my fabric is not very sticky or doesn't have a lot of texture, but my interfacing kept coming off and wanting to come off of the fabric. I ironed it and then it would come off and it was just like peeling off. And I use this interfacing all the time and I don't normally have that many problems with it, but for some reason with this jacket, I don't know if I was just manipulating it too much or what, but it just kept coming off. So that's another tip that she gave, just knowing that you're going to have to interface a lot of your jacket. You need to get a type of fabric that will fuse well to your interfacing. Once you figure out what kind of interfacing you want, then you need to maybe test it and, you know, test a swatch or something and see if it will stick well to your fabric, because it's so important in a jacket for it to not separate. And I think that's what happened with part of mine and why it looks kind of wavy and funky in areas that I don't appreciate. I know that I'm being super picky, but I really wanted it to look really good. It took me like 3 days to sew this thing, and that's a really long time for me, and that was working a couple of hours each day. I mean, gotten to where I can make a dress in a couple of hours. And so spending 3 days on something, and that's just sewing it. That doesn't include cutting it out, cutting out the interfacing, then putting the interfacing on. So I was just like, oh my gosh, I should have watched her class first. So you can learn from me and not make the same mistakes. Another thing I want to say on the topic of interfacing, and this is actually a positive, but I think I've talked about this before, but they also recommend in this pattern to put bias, like a bias fusible stay tape or something like that on some of the curves and the armholes and things like that, and the necklines, and they tell you where they suggest it. But I use this Design Plus bias fusible tape that I got from Amazon, and it's just like this roll. It's 3/8 of an inch, and it's like the perfect width, and it fuses beautifully on this actually. So that's something that I used that was extra, that really helped my seam lines like stay in place and they weren't stretching out and then not fitting with each other. So that helped a lot. The modifications to the pattern pieces, I usually talk about this if I make any, but I really didn't modify anything. I mean, I was super scared to make this to begin with, so I was like, not about to change something about the pattern. I didn't make a muslin, which I know is pretty brave, but I literally have never made a muslin for anything, and I really didn't want to start now. Now, I probably will make one for the Jasika blazer because I want to follow the instructions exactly, and I want to follow her class exactly, and I do want to learn how to make a muslin of something, and like how, you know, you don't have to make the entire pattern, you can kind of omit pieces and then see how it fits. And so, but this was kind of a relaxed fit blazer and had like a boxy feel to it, and I've made their patterns before and I kind of know how they fit, so I just went ahead and made it. And honestly, the things that I'm dissatisfied with really have to do with the fabric choice. The fit on the pattern is perfect. Like the shoulder seams sit on my shoulder. The length Could be a little bit longer in the sleeves, but I was planning on rolling up the sleeves anyway, so it didn't really matter. And so I didn't really modify anything with the pattern. Real quick, forgot to mention, I got so involved in my fabric choice and my interfacing that I forgot to talk about my lining. So the lining is an art gallery premium cotton from Lamazi Fabrics. I thought it was a cotton line, but it's actually just called premium cotton. I didn't really worry about whether it was going to be slippery enough to get on because I plan on wearing this blazer mostly in the summer or spring where it's not super cold. I don't plan on wearing it with like thick sweaters or anything like that. And so it's slippery enough to put my arm in, and I literally have no problems with it. Like, it just slides on and off and I don't have any issues. Someone has suggested replacing the arms with something slippery only and just putting this fabric in the rest of it, and that was a super good suggestion, and I did think about it, but I'd already had this cut out, so I was just like, I'm just gonna use that. But next time I probably will cut sleeves out that are different, especially if I plan on using it, wearing it in colder weather. Okay, so construction of the pattern is very involved. It's a blazer, I mean, come on. For the most part, the instructions were actually really good, and there's something funny that Oraguese Patterns does on this jacket pattern that I like, but they kind of number the pattern pieces, and so like I put them in order just because I'm type A like that sometimes. And I noticed they were like, okay, grab this number and this number. And it was like number 8 and 9. And I was like, oh, they're all in order, like in the order that I need them. And I'm not like digging through my pattern pieces trying to find what I need next. And I just thought that was really cool. And I'm just telling you that because that's kind of an example of how their patterns go for me. Like, they're really organized. They over explain a lot and they do a really good job. The construction wasn't too bad. I did get a little bit confused on some parts when there like wasn't a clear picture, and sometimes the way that the document was, the pattern instruction for something had like a picture in the next page, and I was just like, oh, how is this supposed to look? And so I would scroll to the next page and it would be there. But for a second I was like, why is there no picture? So I feel like they would like say an instruction and have it on top of a picture that may not necessarily go. Like, sometimes I got a little confused, but I pretty much understood how to make most of it. The only thing that I kind of did on my own, I didn't really understand how to sew the sleeve hem, but you leave a big hole in your jacket basically in the lining and you pull it out. And so I kind of did it how I did if you watch my YouTube pinafore video. I put my arm inside the sleeve and I like folded the lining in, and I folded the fabric in, the shell fabric, and I grabbed them how they were supposed to be sewn so I wouldn't get confused, like right sides together. And then I pulled it out of my hole in my lining, which I can't do right now, obviously. And that way I kind of knew, okay, this is how it's supposed to go. And that helped me just sew that all the way around. And then I pushed it back out, and I was able to do that because I had a big hole in my lining, which you sew up later. And I think the hole is in your sleeve. The other thing that confused me and totally threw me off was there are very good notches for attaching the sleeve, but it's not like intuitive, because at first I was trying to line up the underarm seam in the jacket. Okay, let me find it. All right, so the underarm sleeve seam in the jacket is right here, and there is actually a notch on the sleeve that's supposed to line up with that. You're not supposed to line up the seams like this. The seam in the sleeve is not supposed to line up with the underarm seam, and I was just like, what? I don't understand, it always lines up. But it didn't. It had a notch and it was very clearly marked, and all the other notches lined up, and so I guess that's just how they want the sleeve to lie. Of note, I also in the construction put in a sleeve head for the first time, and it's in here. You can see it's kind of got like a little ridge here, and it kind of helps the jacket from like collapsing, and I think it's a really good thing to put in, and it's so easy to put in. I was really scared to do it. In fact, I like took a break from making my jacket and like did a bunch of other stuff, did some laundry and dishes, and I was like, I don't want to put my sleeve head in, I'm just gonna do some housework. And then when I finally got around to it, I just put it in and it was so easy. So don't be like me. So one major problem with not the construction, but also probably with fabric choice. A good thing with the construction of the pattern was that they have you understitch the bottom of the lapel. Ugh, I hate that wrinkle. Sorry, that's not the lapel. This is the lapel. They have you understitch the bottom of the lapel so that it kind of stays like when you, I put this little pin here, by the way. So it kind of stays like this underside of the fabric stays back. But the problem is that this side, for some reason, kept wanting to roll out even though I understitched it properly. And so that's why you see this lovely little star pin here so that I can keep it back because it was driving me crazy. My mom actually suggested wearing like a little brooch or something, and I had this little pin, so I put that there. But yeah, this side only was doing that, and I like pressed it over and over. I steamed it. I sprayed it with water. I thought about spraying it with starch, but I hadn't tested it on my fabric, so I didn't know how that would go. But for some reason, this side is like perfect. It just, you know, stays flat, no problems, and I have no idea why. I don't know if this piece was slightly cut off grain on accident or the interfacing just popped off or what. I don't know what's going on, but it will not stay. So I put this pin here, so it's fine. The other thing is I was going to show you this, attaching this to here. That was like towards the end of the instructions, and it was the only part that was really confusing for me because I couldn't like understand how to do this very corner on the bottom. I still don't really understand it. But I just made it look the best I could. So that's it for that. But don't you love this lining? It's so pretty. Anyways, so that's basically what I need to tell you about the construction. I didn't add any buttons because honestly, I was just like, I was so tired of making this and it didn't really turn out exactly how I wanted it to. And so I was like, I'm not gonna waste any time on it putting a button, and I'm gonna wear it with a belt most of the time anyway, and I think I'll like it better that way. And I felt like putting a button in would like anchor the fabric like right where the buttonhole is, like really tight, and then the rest of the fabric around it would be like flowing out, and it would just like accentuate the fact that the fabric like doesn't want to lay flat and it's just kind of like hanging out. So I was like, I'm just gonna leave it alone and not put anything there. So I mean, it really didn't turn out that bad, but I'm just like so picky. And now that I look at the picture on their pattern, or if you go on the website, I am noticing some of the stuff I don't like about mine kind of on theirs, like it's just kind of loose a little bit, and I think that's how it's meant to look, but I don't think that's what I really wanted. I mean, I love theirs, it looks awesome, but then I was like, wait a minute, some of the stuff that I don't like about mine I can kind of see on theirs, but like when I first saw the jacket I loved it and I didn't even notice anything. I think it's just because I made it and I'm just always hard on myself. The other thing is, be really careful, I just noticed this, with the pocket lining. I worked really hard to understitch it and iron it like way under, but for some reason, this little part like right here is, you can kind of see when I have it on, there's like a little white line, like it's trying to flip back. So just be really good about that and conscious about that, because you don't want, when you're wearing your jacket, to see like a little bit of your pocket lining. You know, Patrick wouldn't like that in the swim bee. He would definitely point it out. That's probably why I'm so hard on myself now. I feel like I have a little Patrick like on my shoulder telling me like, that's not the way you're supposed to do that, or that doesn't look good. So stupid. Anyways, this is my first blazer, so I'm actually pretty proud of it considering, and the fact that I didn't muslin it, I think I just got really lucky. As far as the rest of my blog, I did talk about pattern fit a little bit already. It's hard in these videos to stay structured because everything kind of runs all together, but for the most part, like I said, it's like a boxy fit. The shoulder pads looked really good. the pattern fit was really not an issue at all. I think my hips are a little bit bigger than the size I picked, but they noted that you don't really need to grade out because the jacket is kind of loose in the hips anyways. Having said that, if I did put a button in, I don't think I could have put both in and like crossed it over all the way. So if I really wanted the buttons, I probably would have had to grade out a little bit. But anyways, you can just kind of probably muslin like a good seamstress, and then you'll figure that out. Anyways, but I want to wear it with a belt, like I said, so that's not really relevant for me. So this blazer, if it looked like really, really awesome, which it looks okay, I would probably wear it like all year round because I could see it with so many different things. Like I can see it with like a turtleneck, and like, I know I always say that. My husband always says I say wear something with a turtleneck, but for real, it would look good with a turtleneck and like some like nice winter pants like corduroy or like you know, velvet or something. Also think like with an Ogden cami, there's some sparkly fabric I really want from Mood Fabrics, and like I want to make an Ogden cami out of it, and I think it'd be awesome like underneath this blazer with like some, you know, leather pants or pleather pants, which would be really cool. I need to make some of those. I think that it's really good with just like a regular t-shirt and jeans, like skinny jeans, and a belt around it like I wore for my picture. So that's probably going to be my favorite way to wear it. But yeah, the choices are endless. But that's it. So I think long story short, if you just don't want to watch this video and you want to just fast forward to the end, pick good fabric for the blazer. The instructions are really good. The fit is pretty easy, and I think that concentrate on picking good interfacing. Other than that, I think everything was pretty smooth. And you know, of course, comment down below if you have any questions about anything, or if you have any suggestions. I'm always open to that because I'm still learning a lot. Make sure, if you like this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell so you get a notification every time I have a video. Make sure you check out my blog because I have a blog post about this. And then make sure you check out my Instagram. I changed my Instagram name to Victoria Lucille Ann, and it has a story behind it on one of my Instagram posts. It's pretty interesting, so you might want to check that out. And again, my blog is victorialucilleann.com. It's no longer a Daily Sojourner, so make sure you go there. Thanks for watching. Bye.